given I am someone who thinks fathers are really important and I have a wonderful father, what is my response to this question? Is it selfish to have a child without a father? My answer is no, it's absolutely not selfish. And in this video, I'm going to tell you 11 reasons why it's not selfish.
Do you think it's selfish that you got born?
Hi everybody, I'm TJ, this is Baby Star, and if you're new to our channel, welcome. About a month ago, one of our viewers asked us a question down in the comments on one of my videos, and she asked, what do you say to others who think it's selfish to have a baby without a father? And I remember thinking, what? I've never even heard that before. No one has ever asked me that. And I actually looked on some single mother by choice Facebook groups and some forums, and I saw that this is a question that some women actually get asked. I'm shocked. So I spent the last month really thinking about it, feeling into it, and this video is my response to that question. Probably the most compelling reason why it is not selfish to have a child without a father is because of what they call in psychology attachment theory. Psychologists talk about whether a child is securely attached or insecurely attached. If a child is securely attached, which happens when they have a very loving, responsive, attentive, present parent, then that child will grow up as a stable, grounded person. A securely attached child grows up to someone who's very good at making committed, bonded relationships, but is also very happy by themselves. They're an internally stable person. They're not needy, they're not clingy, but they're not avoidy or distant. They're very balanced. And research has shown, you can find this in many different books about attachment theory, that what a child needs in order to grow up securely attached is one parental figure in their life who is always present for them, engaged and responsive. Just one. It'd be great to have two, but you just need one. If you have one mother or one father who is always attentive, engaged, responsive and loving to you, you will grow up with a calm nervous system that is wired for stability, for sanity, for ease, for having healthy relationships in life. So anything beyond that one parent is a bonus. Sure, it would be great to have two parents, two grandparents, all your aunties and uncles who are constantly attentive, loving, engaged and present with your child. But in order to be securely attached in psychological terms, you need one person to play that role. And that is the most powerful reason why it is not selfish to have a child as a single mother by choice without a father if you are planning and intending to be a present, engaged, responsive and loving mother. And most single mothers by choice tend to be that way because they know from the beginning that they're doing it by themselves. They have things in place to make sure they have time and energy to give to their child. In my case, I am doing that with my child. I'm very, very engaged and responsive with her. I'm a stay-at-home mum. She gets all my attention. She gets all my presence. I respond to her every movement. I can read her needs. She never cries because she doesn't need to cry because I'm on it. You know, I'm responding to her cues. Aren't I? So yes, it would be nice if she had a father, but she's going to grow up with a very stable, securely attached nervous system, having me as a mother without a father. And that is the number one reason why it's not selfish to have a child without a father, so long as you are a very loving, present, responsive and engaged mother. Okay, so my most visceral response to this question is, if I didn't have this child without a father, she wouldn't exist. She literally wouldn't exist. I tried to find a partner, I tried to find a husband, it didn't happen. So if I had not had her by myself, she wouldn't exist. So if you come to me and you say, oh, it's a bit selfish that you had this child without having a father for her, I'm going to say, okay, would you prefer she didn't exist? This beautiful, loving, joyful being that is such a gift to the world, who brings so much love to my whole family, to my whole community, who everyone adores, who's the happiest, sweetest child you've ever met. Would you rather she didn't exist? Or would you rather she be raised by a loving mother and a loving community and a loving extended family and she doesn't have a father? Really? You'd rather she didn't exist? Okay.
Would you rather exist? If you didn't exist, you wouldn't be able to play with this spoon in your mouth right now. You wouldn't be able to play with this spoon.
Okay, why do you assume this child is never going to have a father? I'm very open to meeting a beautiful, beloved man, marrying him, and him stepping in as her father. But I'm only going to do that if I meet someone who's really right, who's really grounded, who's caring, who's going to be a good father figure for her, who really loves her, who really loves me. And the great thing is now that I have a child already, I don't have to quickly find someone to try and have a baby before my ticking clock runs out. All that pressure's gone. A lot of women choose their partners because they're running out of time, or they think, it's not perfect, but maybe I can make it work. I'd really like to have a family. I'd really like to have a child. And sometimes women settle for what's not really in their highest interest, and the person who may not be the best father for their child because they're in such a rush, because they have a ticking clock. That's gone for me now. And I did look for a partner to have a child with because I wanted to have a baby with a man. I wanted to have a child who had a mother and a father. But that didn't happen. I ran out of time. I was 46 and a half and I realized I'd missed the boat on that, and I either had to have a child by myself or not have a child. So if a man shows up who's really right for me as a husband and who's right for her as a father, then she'll be very lucky to have him as a father. And if not, I'm very clear that I'm going to provide many wonderful male role models for this child. My father is amazing. It's her grandfather. He's very present in her life. He FaceTimes with her every day. He visits her as often as he can. He's a wonderful father figure for her. And I also have some wonderful male cousins, male friends who are really wonderful role models for her of beautiful, deep-hearted, caring men. So I intend to surround her with wonderful male figures. And that is really, really important if you're going to have a child by yourself without a father.
How much do you love Spoonie? Do you love Spoonie more than you love your dummy?
And here's another argument for you. In many cases, you could argue that it's more selfish to have a child in a relationship with a mother and a father than it is to have a child as a single mother by choice. Because many, many romantic relationships are very dysfunctional. 50% of relationships in the modern era end in divorce.
Did you know that? 50%. That's a lot.
What about all the relationships that don't quite get to divorce but that are still very tumultuous and full of conflict? That's probably 70%, 80% of relationships. I don't know that many people in relationships that are easy and conflict-free and stable. So there is an argument to say that it's actually more selfish to put a child through that. The parents who don't divorce, who stay together and the child grows up with conflict, they have a heightened nervous system because they're always living in a bit of a war zone. The child is always in a state of fight or flight. They're torn between their two parents. And then if it does end in separation or divorce, and the child has to go back and forth between two different houses, it's incredibly disruptive to their school life and to their emotional life. Often the children end up very emotionally dysregulated and have all sorts of problems later in life, children of divorced parents.
You don't like me talking about conflict, do you? Because you've never experienced any conflict.
Not to forget that in many of these situations, the child hardly gets to see their father. The mother has most of the custody. The child gets to see the father like every second weekend. Often it's very acrimonious, the handover, the parents are fighting behind each other's back. It's not nice for the child. You can say that in many ways, having a child as a single mother by choice means your child is not exposed to all that arguing, conflict, drama, acrimony, violence. My child lives in a very calm environment. I don't have anyone else here, just me, so there's no one to argue with, there's no one to even talk with. It's just very quiet. Friends come over, but they're friends who I get along with, they're friends who love me. She's never even seen a fight. She's never even seen me have a disagreement with anyone. It's a very calm state to grow up in. Your nervous system is wired in a very calm, stable way than when you're growing up surrounded by all this conflict. So yes, if we were in a world where everybody stayed married and all relationships were harmonious and no one ever had breakdowns or conflicts or miscommunications and there was no divorce, then it might be a little bit easier for you to make your argument that it's selfish to have a child without a father. But in this day and age, when 50% of marriages end in divorce and most relationships, 70 or 80% of relationships are challenging and tumultuous and full of drama, it's crazy to think that just by being in a relationship, you're guaranteeing a better life for your child. Because you're not. You're probably guaranteeing a better life for your child if you just have a child without a relationship. And find your relationship later, maybe when your child's a bit older, and bring someone stable into your life as a father figure, than try and do it in a difficult relationship or a difficult marriage. Some people actually have a baby in order to try and save a broken relationship. How selfish is that? Click like on this video if you agree with this point. So I've just put baby Star on her playpen just over there. She's waving at me and smiling at me. She's so cute. And here's another good point. Even if you have a relationship that lasts, where the man and the woman stay together, that doesn't mean the child is going to have a great relationship with both parents. I hardly know anybody who has a good relationship with both their parents. Think about it. How many people do you know who get along wonderfully with their mum, wonderfully with their dad, who have a really healthy, stable relationship with both? I could think of less than that many people, and I know a lot of people. Now, I'm a very, very rare lucky person because I have a very great relationship with my father, and when my mother was alive, I had an incredibly wonderful relationship with her. And growing up, I think I was the only person I know who had a good relationship with both their parents. I had a lot of my friends want to adopt my dad as kind of like their, fun adopted dad. They'd come around to our house and they'd kind of call him Papa because he's such a loving man. And a lot of my friends did not have that relationship with their father. So I really know this one. You're not guaranteeing your child anything by having a relationship in a two-person relationship. You just never know if your child's going to grow up with a close bond with both. It's pretty unlikely in the modern era. So I figure if I can create a loving, strong relationship with my child as a single mother, then she will have one person, one parent that she's close with, that she feels safe with and comfortable with. That's more than most people have in a two-parent household. And there's going to be very few people she knows who have two healthy, loving, great relationships with their parents. And studies have shown that single mothers, particularly if they're single mothers by choice, so they went into this knowing they were doing it by themselves, have very strong bonds with their children and tend to get along better with their children than other kinds of people do. Just because the nature of the situation. I'm seeing that with my baby. Like, we are together 24/7. There's no one else in the dynamic, so we're very close. I really read her signals well because I'm not relying on a second person to do that. I'm doing it all day and all night, so I've really learned how to read her. I think fathers are amazing, but I'm just saying one of the advantages of doing it by yourself is you form a very deep bond with your child, and that's going to last them throughout their life. And that's priceless, to have a close, loving friendship bond with a parent. It's a good question though, isn't it? This question about, is it selfish to have a child without a father? If you also have a good question for me, please write it in the comments. If there's anything you want to ask me about having a child by yourself, about having a child at an older age, about using donor eggs or donor sperm, IVF, ask me a question in the comments and I'll make a video like this responding to you. So now I'm going to get into a not so nice point. Now, as I've said earlier, I really love men. I have a wonderful father. I have wonderful male friends in my life and male family members. And as much as it pains me to say this, one of the realities of our modern world is that not all men are like that. And some men do leave. And some men do leave women in the lurch with their babies. And I have personally in my life, I have some female friends whose men left and they were stuck with the baby by themselves. And there are some men who stay in the relationship but are not present. They're not present fathers. They're not interested in parenting. There are some men who leave and don't pay child support or don't offer any financial support. And I personally have some female friends who were very traumatized while they were raising their babies because the father left. They had to do it by themselves. Maybe the guy shows up once every few months, wants to see the kid. But the woman's doing it by herself with no emotional support, no financial support. On top of that, she's feeling abandoned. She's feeling traumatized. It's 1,000 times worse than just having a baby by yourself. Because now you've got a woman who's traumatized and who's financially struggling and who's emotionally upset. And she's trying to raise a child. She's not enjoying me talking about this negative stuff, is she? Do you want to go crawly over there? Crawly over there. Crawly over there. So the bottom line is, just because you choose to have a child in a relationship with a man or in a marriage with a man doesn't mean your child is going to have a father. They may end up without a father anyway. There are many, 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 many single mothers in our world who got that way because the father left. That's just a sad reality in our world. So if you're choosing to be a single mother by choice, it's actually a more loving option in many ways, because you're not putting your child through someone leaving them. You're not putting your child through living with a traumatized mother. You're actually raising your child in a very calm space from the beginning, and you can choose to bring a man into their life later. There's a really good man who's choosing to come into your relationship with a pre-existing child. That's a big choice. If a man makes that choice, you know he really wants to be there because he's choosing to come into a relationship with a child that's not his. That's an amazing man. That's a man who's going to stick around. That's a really beautiful gift to give your child. And please share this video with other single mothers by choice that you know, or other women who are thinking about becoming a single mother by choice, because they may need to know some of these arguments in case somebody says this to them. Oh, it's selfish for you to have a child by yourself. Tell them to watch this video so they'll be prepared. Share it with them. So now I really want to make another point, which is that single mothers by choice are a very different breed from single mothers. There's nothing wrong with being a single mother, but I'm just saying it's a very, very different situation. If you're a single mother by choice, you're going into this from the beginning knowing you're going to be single. So you're going to have plans in place. You're going to have financial resources. You're going to have a support structure. You're going to make sure your health's good. You're going to be putting a lot of time, money, and intention into creating a child, which means you really, really want this child. It's not an accidental pregnancy. You didn't fall pregnant and then kind of try and make things work with the guy you were with because you were with him. Like, it's a very intentional place to come from. It's a very resourced place. Women who do this are usually got their shit together. They're usually mature. They've usually thought it through for a long time. Sometimes it takes 5 or 10 years for it to succeed. That's a long time to plan. That's a long time to get yourself mentally and emotionally ready. That's a long time to set up support structures. That's a long time to think about it. It's a very different situation than someone who has a 3-year-old baby or a 4-year-old baby and the relationship ends, or their partner leaves, or the man's too busy to pay attention to the child and suddenly they find that they are by themselves, doing it all by themselves. Well, they never planned for that. They didn't want that. They didn't choose that. They're not emotionally ready for that. They don't have the financial resources for that. They don't have the support structures for that. It's a nightmare. And on top of that, they're often grieving. I'd say most of the women I know who are mothers are single mothers, not by choice. They're single mothers because the relationship ended or the partner left. And they've had to go through a huge amount of grief and trauma and counselling and spent years recovering. And the child is going through that roller coaster with them. If you have a child by yourself, you're giving them a smooth, stable base for their childhood. You can guarantee that because you know there is no relationship breakup happening because you're not in a relationship. So you'll hear people throw around statistics that, children of single mothers don't have very successful lives and they have really emotional challenges when they're older. Yes, that's true, but that's not single mothers by choice. Those statistics are referring to women who've ended up as single mothers not by choice, against their will, when their dream got smashed because the relationship ended and they're traumatized. And yes, those children can struggle. But that's not what we're talking about here. In this video, we're talking about, is it selfish for you to choose to have a baby without a father as a single mother by choice? Is that a selfish choice? No, as I'm trying to show you, it's not a selfish choice. It's actually a very sensible choice. It may not be your first choice. Like me, you may be a romantic who always dreamed of having a baby with your child. It was definitely my second choice, but it's ended up being a really good choice and a really sensible choice, and she's having a really easy, calm life as a result. So when you hear those statistics, when people throw you those statistics, you're going to have a baby without a father, children without fathers aren't very stable. Well, that's probably because they went through a relationship breakup and they went through all that trauma and custody disputes, not because the woman is the sole parent. That's not the reason. I'm just going to pull out my notes for this because this was really interesting. There was a study that was conducted by the Journal of Family Psychology. I'll put the link below. And they studied 51 families with single mothers, and these were solo mothers like me, single mothers by choice, and 52 families with 2 parents. And the study measured the well-being of the mother-child relationship and the child's ability to adjust to other children and teachers in their environment. And it found that there were no differences in parenting quality between the family types, except they found that there was less conflict between the mother and child, less conflict in the solo mother families than in the 2-parent families. Less conflict. And then the journal went on to mention that children in single mother families that came out of divorce are more likely to show emotional and behavioral problems than are children in intact families. This is an intact family. Our family is intact. There's no breakage in this family. Just like a happy married couple is intact. My family is intact. That's the issue. The issue is the absence of the conflict and the breakdown. And also there's often a lot of financial drama and financial strain after divorce. It's just a battleground over the money, the property, the access to the children. It's not fun and it's not good for the children. Whereas at least if you choose to be a single mother by choice, you're setting up your financial situation from the beginning to support you having a child. However you do that, there's lots of ways to set up that financial support, but it's not going to come crashing down because someone leaves your life and pulls half your money away or stops supporting you or any of the things that can happen in a relationship breakdown. So you're much more financially stable. Hey guys, let me know in the comments below which of these arguments is resonating the most for you. Which of these arguments do you find the most compelling? Which of these arguments are you most likely to use if somebody comes to you and says, hey, it's a bit selfish, don't you think, that you're thinking of having a child without a partner? Which of these arguments are you going to use? So this one is not my personal argument, but it's an argument that I came across when I was researching this topic. Some people just think, well, yeah, it's selfish to have a child without a father because it's selfish to have a child at all in our modern era. It's selfish to have a child when there are so many children that need adopting. It's selfish to have a child when we're in a climate emergency and they've got a terrible future ahead of them. Now, those are all valid arguments. I don't personally subscribe to those arguments, but you might use those arguments if someone says this to you. You might believe that. I know I tried adoption first before I tried IVF because I also believe there are a lot of children that need love in the world and I have a lot of love to give and I really wanted to adopt a child. But because I'm single and because I'm over 40, I wasn't able to adopt. So I then turned to IVF. So I do understand that argument about there are a lot of children who need adopting. And you watching this thinking of having a baby, you might try adoption, but not everybody is able to adopt. Sometimes it's easier to adopt than to have a child of your own. Sometimes it's easier to have a child of your own than it is to adopt. One other reason why in my particular case it's not selfish to have a child without a father is because I'm someone who's actually quite balanced in my masculine and my feminine energy. It's just my personality, my nature, my upbringing. I'm not talking about being balanced as a man and a woman. I'm talking about the masculine and the feminine. So I have a lot of masculine qualities. I have lots of vision, direction, clarity. I'm able to take action. I'm able to make things happen. I have a lot of feminine qualities. I'm very caring, nurturing, receptive, flowing, emotionally fluid, things like that. So I've done a lot of work on that in my life to have very healthy masculine energy and very healthy feminine energy. That's been a lifelong work for me. I am able to offer her a lot of the qualities of the masculine as well as a lot of qualities of the feminine. So in a way that helps because she doesn't have a father. She's got lots of men in her life and she's got me who has a fair amount of masculine energy as well as my feminine. But that's good, that's important. If you're going to be a single mother, you're going to have to learn to develop your masculine as well as your feminine, or you won't be able to handle it, you won't be able to get anything done. So I think a lot of women who are single mothers by choice either naturally are quite balanced like I am or have to develop the masculine side of their personality because there's no choice. They have to be able to do this, they have to be able to provide, they have to be able to solve problems. These are all elements of the masculine. If you don't have a husband and father, you've got to do that yourself. So the child ends up getting some of that from you as well as from the men in your life. So my second last point is this. How can love be selfish? Those of us who are choosing to have a baby by ourselves, we're doing it because we have so much love to give. We want to give that love to a baby. How can that ever be selfish? It's the most selfless thing you can do. To give your love, to give your nurturing, to give your milk, to give your time, to give your energy, to look after another human. It's the least selfish thing you can do. Really think about that. How can love be selfish? Every woman I know who's choosing to be a single mother by choice is doing it because of love. That's why I did it. I have so much love to give. I'm filled with it. I wanted to give it to a child. I'm so lucky I can give it to this child. I count my blessings every single day, and she's the recipient of all of that love. How is that selfish? And then my final reason why it's not selfish to have a baby by yourself is my own personal highest reason. And this is quite a spiritual, esoteric reason. I could feel this baby's spirit, their soul around me for years. I could feel you. I could feel this baby. I could feel it wanting to come in. And I was like, how can I bring this baby in? I don't have a partner. So I was dating. I was trying to meet men because I knew there was a baby that wanted to come in. I knew it. I could feel it in my bones. And I had friends say to me, I can feel a baby spirit around you. And I knew they were right because I could feel it. Now you may not believe that, but this is my reality. And I tried to find a father, but none showed up. And then I was like, okay, well, I can feel this baby wanting to come in. What am I supposed to do? Maybe I'm supposed to do this another way. I've made a video about the moment when I realized I had to get my personal wishes out of the way. You can see it here. So that I could open to how this baby wants to come into my life. I had to put my romantic dream of having a partner and having a baby with a man aside. It's the most selfless thing I ever did. I let go of my dream of partnership because I knew this baby wanted to come in and I realized it wanted to come in a different way. It's not a selfish thing. It's the most selfless thing. I set aside my own will. I was not imposing my will on the universe. I was opening. I was receiving. I was allowing somebody else's will to happen, which was I was allowing this child to be born in whatever way she wanted to be born. And it turned out she wanted to be born through a donor egg and a donor sperm. In this beautiful little body she's come in at this time in history, in this place where I live, in this community I live in this era, in this generation on planet Earth. That's her choice. She wanted that. And I just allowed it to happen. I got out of the way and I allowed it to happen. And if that's not selflessness, I don't know what is. So if anybody still thinks that it's selfish to have a child by yourself, there's nothing I'm going to say to convince you, because you've obviously already made up your mind. And if you're thinking of becoming a single mother by choice, I really hope this video has helped you. I really think you should watch this video here, because it's also going to help you. It's also aimed at women who are wanting to become single mothers by choice. And I also recommend that you subscribe to this channel, because I want to answer your questions like I've done in this video. And mostly I just want to inspire you so that you continue on your journey. That's all from me and Baby Star today. Bye everybody.